Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the long-awaited sequel to the 2011 film Puss in Boots, which in itself is a spin-off of the Shrek franchise. And the first film did an absolutely terrific job in extending that universe, and there was hope that the second film would follow suit. But I think it is important to address, though, that yes, Puss in Boots and this film is associated with the Shrek franchise, but they are actually a duology within themselves. Because Puss in Boots and all the characters that are in the first film and the second film also have their own adventures. And the Shrek franchise is very well known for introducing characters, usually in cameo roles, within those films. So even though there's more context and background to the Puss in Boots character and the story beyond the Shrek series, this particular adaptation of the story is more so a spin-off of the Shrek series than it is being an adaptation of the original fairy tale. And I do overall really love the Shrek films, and I really liked the 2011 film, so there were definitely high expectations for this one. So in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Puss discovers that his passion for adventure has taken its toll and has burnt through 8 of his 9 lives. So Puss sets out on an epic journey to find the mythical last wish and restore his 9 lives. So first off, the time setting of the 2 films is quite interesting, because the first film is actually a prequel to the Shrek series, in which it follows Puss before he met Shrek, whereas this one follows Puss after he met Shrek, so it's set after Shrek Forever After. So the fact there's 8 years between the 2011 prequel and this film makes perfect sense, because in between that time technically could actually be the Shrek films. So I do think they did really well with that narrative timeline. And as I mentioned in the plot summary, the idea of the film is about cats with 9 lives, in this case Puss. And of course we know that a cat with 9 lives is a very popular cultural expression which talks about people having, you know, different lives and different stages in their life where they go from one to another. In some cases it could be a case of where people have evaded death or have evaded injury, and then they've had another chance and another chance, etc. I think it's clever how the whole idea about having cats with 9 lives is blended into the story. It's literally part of the plot. And there were a lot of things within the story that actually really surprised me, such as the emotional depth. I was not expecting it to be as emotional as it was, because it did touch upon those themes and those expressions, but does it in a very fun and very enlightening way. To be honest, I was expecting it to be very good, but I wasn't expecting it to be this level of emotion, so that's where I was quite surprised. And also, it's an absolutely brilliant spectacle as well. The visuals in this were absolutely superb, because even the animation on the characters in this film were very different compared to the previous film, such as like how different the animation was on some characters in Toy Story 4 compared to other predecessing films. And I think the production values really were an integral part of the emotional depth of the story as well, because it was just pure entertainment from start to finish. It really was. Just the style of the action sequences were really fun as well, because it was just done in a way that was almost like a comic book. That reminded me actually somewhat of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And even the background sceneries were very different as well, because a lot of the time they looked like 2D paintings. But I think the choice of doing different styles of animation in this film really added to the experience and just the pure entertainment factor, and what stands out differently from this compared to the previous film. Now, as well as being an exciting and very entertaining film, there were times when it was actually quite scary and rather violent, which actually caught me by surprise. But I think for a kids film, the narrative and the production values really coexisted very well. I've said earlier in the video that characters have appeared in Shrek and made cameos the majority of the time, but here they have their own adventures and have far more significant roles to play. And we saw Antonio Banderas return as Puss in Boots, having previously played the role in the Shrek films and the 2011 film. And the Shrek film saw him more as a supporting character, but the 2011 film and this film saw him embark on his own journey, and we follow his own character arc. Because of him being the sole hero in the film, it added a sense of heroism a whole lot more. There's a lot more context around this character as well, and the way that the film builds up this character is towards the end of his 9 lives and he's trying to get that last wish back. And I just loved watching him in the action sequences as well. And Antonio Banderas, his vocal performance again was absolutely brilliant, and he's a really good match for this character. And alongside Antonio Banderas as Puss in Boots, we got Salma Hayek as Kitty Softpaws, who reprises her role from the previous film. And what I like about Kitty is that she is literally the female equivalent of Puss in Boots. And being a Spanish speaker herself, Salma Hayek really shared great chemistry with Antonio Banderas, because you could feel the romance between them, while at the same time that they are a team and that they work together. We also saw Harvey Guillen new character Perito, and he's a character who goes on this journey with Puss and Kitty, and has a role in this film that's quite similar actually to Sid in the Ice Age films and Olaf in Frozen 1 and 2, because he was the source of humour and he was the idiot who was going along with the journey. But equally his heart was in the right place and I thought he was a nice character. And some other interesting characters that appeared as well were Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now of course we know Goldilocks and the Three Bears is a very traditional story, but this one adds its own unique spin on it because Goldilocks is actually adopted into this crime bear family, which are the three of them, and they're almost like vigilantes, or maybe not a vigilante but a bit of a rebel in some way, a lot like how Bo Peep was represented in Toy Story 4. And you follow her journey in this film as well through an absolutely terrific vocal performance from Florence Pugh, and alongside her starred Ray Winstone and Olivia Colman as Mr. and Mrs. Bear. Now I think looking back, the casting of Olivia Colman and Ray Winstone as these two characters worked absolutely perfectly, because they really added the humour and the wit and the way they're just very gullible characters. And we know from Olivia Colman's and Ray Winstone's individual comedic style that it really gave us that sense of warmth and enjoyment from these characters. And another character who was introduced in this film as well was the character of Jiminy Cricket, who is actually appearing on screen in film for the third time in less than a year. Now you may think to yourself that the film might have too many characters, or it might just be very overstuffed for a story that's meant to be quite simple, but I think it works really smoothly because the characters are almost going towards the same ambition. And that's sometimes what's good about having lots of characters within the story, because they're going towards the same thing and it gives you time to understand them, not just the leading character but the supporting ones, as it leads up to that moment. And that's why sometimes films that are considered overstuffed feature characters in which they're going in different directions, and then, you know, it jumps from one thing to another. And that's where I think sometimes films, particularly those targeted for children, go wrong. So overall, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is an absolutely fantastic sequel to the 2011 film, and it only adds even more greatness to the Shrek franchise's legacy. And now that I think about it, this film and its predecessor completely justifies the legacy of the Shrek franchise, a lot like how the two Shaun the Sheep films does with Wallace and Gromit. And despite the expectations, there were a lot of things that actually really surprised me in this film, such as the emotional depth, such as the style of animation that was incorporated into it, and it was definitely worth the wait to see this. What did you think of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? Did you find it better than the previous film, or did you find the first film better? And what do you think it added to the Shrek franchise? Do you think it enhances the legacy, or did you not think it made a difference? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you did want to enjoy this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more, and have a notification bell ticked so you're notified when I upload a new video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care everybody.